Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Bleav.
Welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. Desmond Johnson, Sports Illustrated, Schuyler, Callihan, Panthers all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. In the house, it is a Panthers victory Monday. It's only the second one we've had so far this year, but it feels good. Feels damn good. Carolina Panthers 21-3 winners over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past Sunday. An interesting game we'll chop up for you guys. Schuyler gave us an injury report coming out of that game as well. And we'll give you our the things that we saw in this game that stood out to us, like we do every Monday as we give you the recap version of Bleav in Carolina Panthers. Bleav in Carolina Panthers brought to you by Bet Online. And speaking of Bet Online, they are the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live and game betting, props, and futures. Head to Bet Online today to use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And where we start today, for those this is our third year of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. And for those wondering, where is the theme song that usually comes on at the beginning of each episode, I did not play it because I had not a chance to correct it, because at the very beginning of it, if you know, it's the announcer talking about Christian McCaffrey going off on a 60-yard run. Didn't want to play that again, so we didn't have it for this week. I will have it for you guys Thursday when we're in for the preview against the Atlanta Falcons. The Carolina Panthers.
Hold on, before we do that, I feel like the original theme song deserves a moment of silence. So
I was gonna play like "It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday" or something like that for it, but let me go that, because I worked on that. We put it on. I've gone through. Tyrone Poole was the first co-host, first defensive player ever chosen by the Carolina Panthers, and then last year Schuyler came on board, and now this year Stu's come on board.
We got to get a Stu run on there.
Yeah, sure. I do actually. I might be what I end up doing.
Let's make it historic.
Yeah, I'm gonna put because that way I don't have to change
it. Not getting traded, so
yeah, because
it's trading me. I got released.
That was my concern. That was my concern, because I was like, yo, I don't know who to put on here. Like, who would you put on the opening that's on this current roster that you feel confident would be there for a while? Heck, because I don't know who that is. Is that
what an amazing punt by Hecker?
That's it. Do. That's it. Johnny Hecker's going to lead this thing off.
He does have a freaking leg, though.
I can't think of the last time I loved the punter as much, but hey, it is what it is. And we'll get that Boys to Men there for not just for the theme song, but for our boy C-Mac. You know, gave us 5 good years, great years, broke records.
Love you, C-Mac.
Hey, Stu, your record's going to stand.
I felt so happy for him. I watched the San Francisco game, and I had no idea they were going to throw him in there off of a day of planning, and they threw him in there, and
to see forever.
Breaking equipment.
What's gonna be? It's so hard to say goodbye to my homie.
Yo,
C-Mac, you a dog, and I can't wait to see you ball out with the Niners.
Dude, just give him a week with Kyle Shanahan and that offense, and they're going to be just fine. I know they lost yesterday, but they were playing a team on a whole different level right now, the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know what it is with Kansas City. When they see a top-ranked defense, they go and drop 40 on them for some reason. Like, it's just like watching them play. I'm just like, man, this is like watching Tecmo Bowl or something. Like, these dudes are all
Mahomes was out there like, okay, we're going to score 20 in the first half and 20 in the next half. Defense, do whatever you got to do. I don't know, but this is what we're going to do.
Whatever. Yeah, we're gonna get our 40. Whatever they're going to do on the other side, that's on y'all. But it's crazy, too, because I think him losing Tyreek Hill has made the offense wider, like bigger. Like, he's not just focusing on Kelsey and Hill anymore. Juju was in the game yesterday. A couple of those receivers were getting after it, and they're just clicking on all cylinders. It's going to be Kansas City, Buffalo, I think.
Sounds a little familiar to the Panthers right now, right?
Yep.
You have last week and then this week. What is the difference? I don't know. Like quarterback play, you let the quarterback throw. I don't know, McAdoo. You call a pretty good game.
Yeah. You know what? I've been hard on Ben all season, really. There really hadn't been a week where I haven't been not hard on Ben McAdoo. But I got to say, I don't know if it was by design or necessity or desperation or whatever it may be. I liked the game plan yesterday. It's actually what we've all said we wanted for the past month. Run heavy, let the defense make some plays, take some shots downfield when you have them. I'll start this whole thing off because I've been hard on this guy too. Schuyler knows before Stu came in for season 3, I was clowning PJ Walker. I'll be the first to stand here and do it. I was clowning dude. Dude, why are you here? Why are you here?
Because it's peanut butter jelly time, fool.
Man, he threw some ropes yesterday. I was like, oh, okay. I was sitting there the whole time I know PJ can throw the football. We've seen him throw it. Why are they not letting him throw it? And yesterday, he got a couple. That one to Tommy Tremble in the corner of the end zone, he hit him on a dime. I was like, oh, that's the best throw I've seen out of any quarterback we've had all year. Including
DJ in the back of the end zone too was pretty.
That toe tap with DJ in the back of the end zone, they had it going. Now, granted, how much of this, guys, was Tampa? Because Tampa is not a good football team right now. They are a shell of what they were 2 years ago when they were Super Bowl champs. I was wondering throughout that game, Tom Brady came back for this. This is why he came back. You just signed a $300 million contract for TV, and you decided to come back here, basically in your marriage, everything for the love of football, for this, for this team, this Tampa team. They
married to
I don't know. What were y'all's expectations coming in with Tampa? Because I thought they were better than what they showed.
Well, you know what my expectations were. My expectations last week, I was on the verge of really sitting on the other side.
We almost had
the Panthers losing this game.
And
something tickled my heart and said, "Nah, fella, it's gonna be a good day."
Oh, whoa, yo, that reminds me. Schuyler was finally wrong. Schuyler was wrong.
You were wrong, Schuyler.
What?
Schuyler,
how did you feel?
Actually, I think we bet. Didn't we bet that you were supposed to do 10 push-ups on call or something like that?
It was. I wouldn't push. It wasn't nothing physical.
I already did my 10 push-ups this morning.
But no, I didn't expect that. I did pick the Panthers to win, and I think I said 17-10 or something. It was low scoring. It kind of went the way I was hoping it would go, but that was with the expectation. Hell, when we made the prediction, Christian McCaffrey was still on the team. That was Thursday when we made those predictions. So let's just go around. Schuyler, what was the biggest thing that stood out to you yesterday in the Panthers 21-3 victory at home over the Bucs?
It doesn't really have anything to do with the game itself, but just the ability to overcome the adversity and all the chaos. For this team to have its head coach fired, to have Robbie Anderson traded, to have Christian McCaffrey traded 2 to 3 days before the game, however you want to phrase that, since it was late Thursday night, that's a lot of stuff going on. And you start hearing all this stuff about, the team's trying to tank and all that, and they just put that to rest. They did not care. They said, the hell with that. We're going to go out here and overcome this and win this game, a game that nobody thought that they would win. They were a 14-point underdog. And won the game with what was their 4th-string quarterback entering training camp. So, to me, it wasn't about anything that actually happened in the game, but just them as a team being able to rally and get over this. That shows me a lot. And it also shows me, too, that Steve Wilks has this team bought in.
Yeah.
They are ready to go to war for him. And I'm not saying that they weren't like that for Matt, because I don't really know. But to actually go out there and put it together on the field, that just shows me that. And then plus the locker room after the game, it was a whole different vibe in there. Guys were all happy and smiling and in a great mood. I don't know if you saw my video. I was interviewing Bradley Bozeman.
Yeah.
And Shaq Thompson, he just comes in and steals the show, gives Bradley some love in the video. So that was a pretty cool thing to see. Shaq step in there and give some love to the O-line. So it's a whole different vibe and something we haven't seen there for a long, long time.
Stu, what was the thing that stood out to you the most watching that game yesterday? Because it did feel more – it was more of a team victory than any other I could think of under the rule regime. I couldn't think of a standout victory. But I think we'll look back and think of this victory as maybe that one that maybe put Wilks in a position to actually succeed. Because I know all of us have been kind of worried that he's going to get in a situation where we couldn't fully see if he was the right guy for the job for head coach because of the roster. But maybe that's not the case. What was the big takeaway you took from the game yesterday?
I mean, hands down, the running back stepped up. The offensive line stepped up. Schuyler, you mentioned it. Like this was a game where if there was any like doubt, the Panthers didn't have any doubt. They went into this game and the way they started it out, I mean, play calling wise, like out the rip, throwing it deep, like throwing passes, like we heard what everyone was saying this week. We've heard all the talk about, oh, what are they doing running the ball so much? Or why don't you throw the ball downfield? Like, what this really showed me is you have a coach that isn't afraid to change his game plan, isn't afraid to go into a game, like into a division game and understand the opponent and, like rise to the occasion. This is what the players did. And legitimately through the game plan, you saw it like night and day difference from the week before. I'm not really sure if it was like a Christian McCaffrey thing or whatnot, and just the reliance on Christian last week as far as the offense going and getting PJ comfortable or what. But this week, whatever they were preaching during practice, they displayed like true like accountability. And those are the things that you want to see out of a team that's gone through adversity, gone through hard things, because it's okay to go through hard things. It's okay to make mistakes just as long as you learn from them. And yesterday I felt like they said, hey, I don't care who they got on the other side of the field. I don't care who's hurt. I don't care who's healthy. This is what we're going to do. Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, them boys stepped up to the plate. All the pressure that they could have taken into consideration as far as, oh man, we got big shoes to fill here, Christian being gone, like that noise is out the window. And if you're a Panther fan, you got to be excited about that, because that those are large shoes to fill. Yeah. And they did a pretty good job yesterday. So kudos to the coaching staff for putting guys in positions to win a football game. And that's what I saw yesterday. Foreman, I'm glad we Scott Fitty, Scott Fitterer, Scott Fitty is what I call him. Round of applause to you, my brother, for going out and getting Foreman, because I ain't never seen that's a different type of back. We haven't had a guy that's just he's a bruiser. I don't think guys wanted to go and line up and be in his way, to be honest. When you have a change of pace back like that, and then you have Hubert, who's also a hard runner, these guys combined, man, run that rock. And PJ, he's got a great arm. He's got a good arm to deliver the throws. We've seen that. I'm just really excited, because right now what it looks like is we got 8 more games until we win 10. So
I was wondering if you don't bring that up.
Everybody want to, talk all this, oh, they're a bad team. They're really bad. Yeah, they've been playing really bad. No doubt about it.
You bring up a really good point with the Christian thing, because I think that is something that could be real. When you have a player that is kind of carrying your offense and is almost your crutch, you're just going to lean on that crutch until you can't. And then when that crutch gets taken out from underneath you, you have no choice but to figure it out. Yeah. So I think that actually removing Christian McCaffrey, as crazy as it seems, may be the best thing for this team to find success offensively.
That's where I was going to go with my big takeaway from the game, because it was about first quarter. The end of the first quarter, I was still kind of, in my feelings because we didn't have McCaffrey anymore. And then I realized, I was like, you know what? We haven't had Christian McCaffrey in 2 years. Like, I'm watching the Panthers, as I have the past 2 seasons without him. Like, let me just settle in and see what we do. And the other thing, the offensive line played the best game they've played all year. Bradley Bozeman, I don't know if he was the catalyst for that, but the run game took off exponentially when he started. Once he came in when he became the starter at center for this week, I hope he stays there so we can see if this theory is accurate or not. Double trouble 2.0. That's what I thought of when I was watching this. Like,
that dude was going up against Vito Vea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, he's up against Vea and he's handling dude, like tossing them all like garbage bags, like all over the place. But I thought double trouble 2.0, because we have not had a running back tandem since Stu and D'Angelo Williams, and they complemented each other's run style. Stu was the bruiser, and D'Angelo was the scat back for the most part. We didn't really run it like that when C-Mac got here, and we haven't really had that, in the past couple of years. Yesterday, I thought was a hint of maybe what they're looking to do going forward, and also I think it was the Panthers' shot to their fan base to be like, yo, we have talent on this roster. We're sick and tired of half of y'all telling us to write this off and tank this season so we can get the number 1 pick in a draft where is there a generational talent in this draft coming in? Like, is there a Peyton Manning or a Cam Newton or someone that's just going to be the number 1 pick? Like, it going in? No. So why are we so stressed about having the number 1 overall pick? Like, why don't we win some games?
Because they don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly. It just gets me so fed up. I'm like, you're sitting there wishing for us to lose more. We just lost for the past 2-3 years. I'm tired of losing. I don't want to lose anymore. We got enough talent on this team to win football games. And this division is shaping up like 2014, where we won it with an under 500 record. You were on that team, Stu, 7-8-1. But to me, that team in 2014 was the catalyst for 2015. Like, you guys got hot at the end of that year, won a playoff game, saw what you got going on, and it carried right to the next year.
And then free agency guys saw what we were doing towards the end of the year, and they're like, okay, I want to sign with y'all.
It grows. It grows.
That's where you get the savvy players in here, right? Like the older guys, the veteran guys, the guys that are like, hey man, I'm not as strong as I used to be, but this is how you do it, young buck.
That's how you get a Peanut Tillman in your secondary all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, turnovers. Let's punch the ball out. Don't come. You ain't gonna knock a head off. You ain't got to knock a guy's head off to get the ball loose. Go hit the ball out.
But that was my main thing. I mean, the Panthers. So they rushed for looking at the box score here. Beautiful. The Panthers rushed 27 times for 173 yards on the day. PJ had a decent game, 177 yards, 8 yards per throw. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Pretty much stayed clean, had a quarterback rating of 126.5. So he was, to me, the epitome of game manager in that game, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted a guy that wasn't going to turn the ball over. I could trust him to make some throws. They finally started sending guys out instead of to the side. And I talked to you guys about that all week. I was like, that was to sell Christian McCaffrey off. That's what they were. That
spread chart probably looks a little different this week than it did last week.
Yeah. I didn't even go looking for it this week because I knew he had been peppering it all around. But look, that it makes me a little frustrated that we kind of gave a game to the Rams, it feels like, so they could get something better. Because the McCaffrey deal, to my understanding, got sweeter after that game on Sunday, where they saw McCaffrey doing what McCaffrey does, run, catch, whatever. Like, he was doing all of it in that game. And it almost like they abandoned everything else. But maybe in the end, they thought that would be best all around. And it is almost like addition by subtraction in a weird way, like you were saying, Schuyler, because I do feel like Foreman in particular may have been thinking when he got here, well, how am I going to play if McCaffrey's healthy, and where am I going to get snaps? And now it went from that to, oh, I'm going to play a lot. I'm going to get in here a lot because they ain't got nobody. It's me and it's Chuba, and that's it. Like, let's go. Let's get to work. And they played like that yesterday. Foreman had 118 yards on 15 carries. Chuba had 63 on 9. Foreman broke off a couple of big runs that I can directly attribute to the offensive line. Yeah, he had a 60-yarder. The line was just smashing dudes. But that also makes me, again, where is this Tampa team? Because I was kind of surprised that Tampa looked like that when we were
I just
playing.
wanted to let y'all know. I told you what Tampa was really about in the beginning of the season.
You did.
And
Yeah,
I
you did.
Like
Everybody was riding them, man. I was
the
like,
off the field stuff that Tampa and Tom got going on. It's gonna catch up, man.
You had
It's
them
like-
missing the playoffs, didn't you?
I think
Yeah,
you did.
I got them missing they ain't making the playoffs because we making the playoffs.
playoffs.
How they gonna make the play, Schuyler? How they gonna make the playoffs if we gonna make the playoffs?
They can't
Huh?
score. They can't
All
score.
right.
Like they
Yeah,
are
they've been
not.
Ever since that Saints game that I saw them play, like that
Oh,
that was a struggle bus game that I seen.
I'm trying to figure out how they beat Dallas week 1 because like Dallas has a good defense, and I don't understand how they got past them that opening night. But
They were sleep.
yeah, this trash. They look like trash. Like, I know a lot of it was us. We did a lot of that to them. But some of it though, like that Mike Evans bobble that was a clear touchdown first quarter, that kind of set the tone for me. Like the whole rest of the game, because it was like, you start shrugging your shoulders and shaking your head and doing this and all that, and then Brady starts getting frustrated. You can see it on him, and it just snowballs. And they can't run the football either. Like they could not get past the line of scrimmage. It felt like a lot of times we were just there with 3 dudes, like waiting.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the handoff happened, we knew where they were going. They're the worst rushing team in the NFL. We get to play them again. So the schedule that everyone was looking at earlier in the year and like, oh, you got to play Tampa twice. You got to play the Saints twice. You got to do all this. Good, because they're not very good. Bring them on. Yeah, like I feel like
the division's up
right
now. Like
the division's horrible. Up and down. It's just like, who would you pick today, excluding us? Who would you pick today to be the number 1 contender in the NFC South?
Nobody.
Other
Nobody, baby.
Because I'm like, all of them have flaws. It feels like Atlanta wasn't even counting on this year, really. The Saints, I don't even know why they hired Dennis Allen. He had a horrible record as coach of the Raiders.
The Saints are maybe the worst team in the division.
I would maybe agree. And Tampa has a 45-year-old quarterback that has no targets that he's believing in right now. Let me rephrase that. They have a 45-year-old quarterback with no running game. That is a recipe for disaster. Like they're going to mess around and get Tom Brady.
Remember we were talking last week about the offensive line not giving up any sacks, like no pressures and all those types of things. Looking back at it, especially after this past weekend, it's really a credit to Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the only reason why he doesn't get pressures because he gets the ball out.
He threw the ball 49 times yesterday and only got sacked once. Right.
And so you got to look at the running game. Usually a good offensive line, like they look at, run blocking as, oh, yes, finally we get the run block. You can't run block and you're not a good offensive line. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, so I think they're dead. I think yesterday seeing that, like them struggle in the run, the injuries that they got, at that position. I mean, that's where they're struggling. And if you don't have a run game, it's going to be hard for your quarterback to really feel comfortable back there, going through his progressions and seeing the guys down the field.
The Panthers held Tampa to 46 yards on the ground on 16 carries, a 2.9 average. The longest they had was Rachaad White had an 11-yard carry on the day. Just could not do anything on the ground. Brian Burns got the sack on Tom, and even then, it was a coverage sack, really. Like they had to get to him. He almost got away from him at first, and then Burns caught him. But I did find the video. I wanted to show it I'm going to take down the graphic here. I wanted to show it because it kind of caught me off guard when I watched it the first time, how emotional the locker room felt. Like it felt like the locker room was so happy for Coach Wilks. Even owner David Tepper was down there to give him a game ball. Yes. And it felt like even Tepper was just like, yes,
please show this because this actually, like, I kind of felt like chills because it kind of reminded me of what the locker rooms used to feel like after wins. And kudos to those guys, man, because you got a coach and Coach Wilks that is about to really bring the necessary like involvement of the culture of winning. Like that's the culture. That's the environment that you want after games, man. And that's an exciting thing to see, especially Tepper down there. Getting excited for these guys. It's got to be such a confidence builder.
So this is, if you haven't seen it yet, this is courtesy of CarolinaPanthers.com. This is inside the locker room yesterday, right after the win versus Tampa.
I couldn't be more proud of a group of men than I am this group right here. You continue to overcome adversity, circle the wagon, and come together. That's what it's all about. We talked last night about what? Make the jump. Make the jump. We made that jump today. It's a lot to build on, okay? We talk about right now control the line of scrimmage. All right, we wasn't going to miss a beat. 173 yards. Start up front. Defense. Talking about getting off the field on third down. They were 2 for 12. Hey, a great win in all three phases. But I want to recognize one guy right now. PJ with the game ball.
Job, defense. Y'all went out there and shut me down. Offense, wait on the ball. Special teams, y'all did y'all job today, man. Y'all made every play y'all needed to. Hey, it's game on 3.
That's for you, brother.
Family.
That was. Oh wait, hold on.
Stuff gets you so hot. I love it. It literally puts me.
What is
in
going
the
on here?
best.
No, sorry, it's on YouTube. I don't know what came in after that.
Shout out to YouTube.
I don't know what came on after that.
You'll have
But man,
the
listen.
ad on YouTube.
No, I don't.
Like the guys going up to hug Coach Wilks. Like that's what football's about, man.
Talk to me about that, because you've been in those locker rooms as a player
Like
for those kind of wins.
Like you really going, like you showed up to work today playing for something. Like that's what I was talking about. Like you playing for guys' family, you playing for their kids. Like you know their kids, you know their story, you know what they're going home to. Like these guys look like they are coming together. Like the fact you break that down on family, on a high note, absolutely, it's easy to be hype and all that stuff. But like the emotion that you see in that video with those players, Coach Wilks, Tepper, like, come on, man. That's what football's about, and like I just really hope that they continue to just ride this wave, and that people are taking notice, because these players are buying in to Coach Wilks. That's what that video has shown me, and it's such a nostalgic feeling, because that's what these games should be feeling like in that locker room post game.
It reminded me, it's not exactly the same situation, but it was a situation where, I mean, at this point I already knew the team had bought into Coach Rivera. It was the halftime of the Pittsburgh game, and if you watch in 2018, and if you watch the Amazon All or Nothing documentary, you get to see back, in the locker room, them doing all this stuff. And at that point, Rivera wasn't really known. We knew, but Rivera to the public wasn't really known as being like a foul mouth, kind of guy. This dude played on the 85 Bears, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like he basically came in and was just like dropping F-bombs, like, don't let these effers blah, blah, blah. You punch him in the mouth. Like he gave a football speech. Like he made me want to go play football when he was done.
Run through a wall, man.
Yeah. And that's what it reminded me of. That. And you saying, Wilks had the best like pregame speeches. And like, I think a lot of that's because it's from the heart. It's emotional.
Yeah,
like,
man. Circle the wagon. What's circling the wagon about?
It's
right?
us. It's all
us.
It's us in this room. That's it. Like everyone has counted us out. Half our fan base ain't even here. Right. Let's go out here and let's go make Tom Brady wish that he had just stayed retired, like and just stayed home. And they
2 for 12 on third downs. Boy,
That's usually us.
Yes.
That's the Panthers stat.
And 3 on 4th down too.
Yeah. But you know what? Another thing too to come out of this week of all the trade talk and everything else. Something else that I kind of thought watching that game on Sunday, it felt like the defense had a little extra juice to it, and it felt like they did because some of the key cogs of that defense were told that they're going to be stalwarts of this team going forward. Like they are the cornerstones, and they played like Derek Brown, Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin. I'll throw Frankie Louvu in there. Those guys, they're going to be the ones that this team is going to get built on going forward. And they're not that far off. We've always said that. They're not that far off. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl contender in like a year with a couple players or whatever, but they're not like bottom of the barrel picking number 1 overall bad either. Like it's kind of like the Hornets, Schuyler.
All I got to say is we'll be talking about the Panthers in the playoffs. That's all I got to say.
Ooh. Hey, the way the NFC is right now, is that really that far-fetched with 10 games to go? I mean, I don't think it's that far-fetched at all. Let's do this because I want to look at the Panthers schedule. I don't like looking too far ahead, but I just want to look at the next month just to see if they can kind of get to tread water based off of what they got coming in front of them. Of course, you got to treat every team the same, but when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, I think we're all kind of looking at it differently now. The slate of games over the next 4 weeks at Falcons, at Bengals, home versus the Falcons, at Ravens. All of those teams have flaws. The Ravens can't score in the fourth quarter. The Falcons are the Falcons. Joe Burrow is playing great, but he still didn't have an offensive line. So, I mean, wait a minute. Hold on. This November 10th game versus the Falcons, it says 8:15 p.m. Did they flex us to a night game?
That's a Thursday night.
That's a Thursday night game.
I didn't think we had any. Crap. That means I gotta.
Means you gotta go back into your.
I just ordered something on Amazon and had to reactivate my Prime, and we usually keep it off unless it's like something we want to watch, and we've been real careful about it in the house because we'll forget to turn off Amazon Prime, and then like all of a sudden we'll get that ding. I'm like, oh man, I ain't even used Amazon, and I got to pay them $20 or whatever. I might have to keep it on because I gotta watch the game.
Gotta watch it.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Shout out to Amazon Prime.
I titled this episode the one with the PJ Love or whatever I called it on here before, and a lot of that was because of how I treated PJ and others. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying
everybody needs to apologize to PJ.
We do need he played very well for what they asked him to do yesterday, and that's really all I've ever wanted him to do was exactly what you did yesterday.
Manage the game. You made the
don't
throws.
Lose it. Yeah, hit me with a couple of dimes here and there because I know you can do it, and let your skill players do the rest. If Baker Mayfield had played like this, he'd been fine. If Sam Darnold had played like this, he'd been fine. But it's almost like I don't know if it was them or the coordinators trying to make them do more than what they could do, or what. But maybe McAdoo had to be with a player where he had to be restrained at first and then open up the playbook instead of just throwing the whole playbook at a player and then trying to restrict it, after the fact. So
the 2 games
didn't have nearly that much time to really learn everything. PJ's been here the whole time. So that could have a factor too.
Yeah.
What were you about to say, Stu?
No, but I was just looking at the schedule. The 2 games that I'm looking at ahead because I'm allowed to because I don't play football anymore.
That's right.
Is the Seahawks.
Oh, you went way ahead. Wait, hold on. Let me pause.
The Seahawks and the Ravens are the 2 games that I can sit here and tell you, boy.
Seahawks.
It might not go our way. You know what I'm saying?
Seahawks are interesting, man. Geno Smith I don't know what to do with him.
If he's being efficient.
Mm-hmm. The Seattle team is interesting. That Seattle team is interesting.
You've got the Ravens. If you look at December, like Christmas time, you got the Steelers and the Lions, I think, back-to-back weeks.
Yep.
The way those 2 teams have played, those are very winnable games. Yeah. And if you could sweep Atlanta, I mean that's a big ask. But if you can, that's potentially 4 wins.
And then you end the year with at Bucs at Saints. I'm just looking on the schedule. I'm like, are there any games on the schedule where I'm like, ooh, that's going to be a problem? And I don't really see one where we won't be at least competitive.
Cincinnati, I think, is a tough one. being on the road against that offense. I don't think you can match scores with them. But
I told you how I feel about Cincinnati, like the franchise, the city. Like
when does Jeremy Chin get off of IR?
Next week.
So
yeah.
I think,
See, it's Carolina feels like
everything's coming together, dog.
Yeah,
like,
they're the ones.
I think right now like I said last week,
get the injuries
we got the injuries out the way. That's how I've been looking at it. Hey, just stack these wins however you can, and then when it's time to go, make sure you on time to the airport because the airport.
Now everyone's watching this and,
Yeah.
and thinking that, like me and Des were thinking that Stu was crazy 2 weeks ago. Now,
yeah, man,
he's going to come
Things
out.
change, man.
Yeah, man,
Things
listen,
change
man.
in the NFL. Like I should have known better because we've had seasons here, like where we might have got off on a real slow start.
What was that? What was the year that the whole NFC South was like terrible at the beginning?
2014. It was 2014
or 13. Yeah.
It's when Atlanta was hot though.
Mhm.
Atlanta was hot. They like won like 5-6 games in a row.
Yeah, they were like
something
6-0 starting out, and then they
they just went 28-3 on the season.
Yeah, they really did. The Saints were like kind of right there for a little bit too. We were like at one point in that season, I want to say we were like 3-8-1 or something, like at the start of December.
Ripped off like 5 wins or something.
Yeah, and like got in 7-8-1 because towards the middle, towards the end of Rivera's tenure here, he kind of got known for the Riverboat Ron stuff and getting hot at the end of the year. Like those teams would get hot and go on streaks. And that team did that. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, that playoff game that you guys played Arizona. Yep. And I want to say the defense holds the record for fewest yards allowed in a playoff game in that game. It gets covered a lot because it was a 7-8-1 team. I'm like, I don't care. They won the division. I don't care if they won 5 games. Like, did they win the division or not? You know, like
I wanted to ask you this. Do you see similarities in Wilks and Rivera?
Yes. And mainly from the standpoint of Ron was not a micromanager. The guys that he had, the cards that he was dealt, the guys that he brought in, he trusted those guys. But he made it known for those guys that, hey, my coach trusts me. Hey, Coach Rivera trusts me to do my job. What does that do? It frees me up mentally. It frees me up like spiritually. Like you going to work, spirit levels is like, oh man, I get to go to work today. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the attitude. Like, and you get to go protect your house. You get to go protect the end zone. You get to play with your family. You know what I'm saying? Like you get to play for the guy next to you. And like, not taking these things for granted because Coach Rivera was a player. He understood what it was like. You know what I'm saying? Coach Wilks played the game. You know what I'm saying? Like he understands what it's like to actually play football and and actually be be a player at some level of experience and be a player in a locker room and what that guy is looking for as a player. I need a coach that's going to like connect the dots for me because I'm just a guy. I'm good at football, but I don't know how to connect with my teammate or I don't know how to connect with the overall picture. I don't see the light of the end. I don't see the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? Help me visualize that. And that's one of the things that Coach Rivera was good at. He was a good messenger to young men that are on the rise of becoming men. And he was a great messenger, not only to, the players, but the coaches and then the public and then the organization. Like, hey, organization, we need you. Like, paying homage to, the chefs. Like, hey, at the end of the meetings, hey, make sure you go and say thank you to the chefs, for serving you food. The little things, man. Like, so I definitely know Coach Wilks is that type of guy because he talks about those same things, and really dials in on the little things.
I don't think there could have been a better person to really step into this situation than
Absolutely.
Steve.
Absolutely. Because it couldn't just be anybody. It had to be somebody who understood Panthers culture, not just football culture, but what it is in that building. And at that point, when you look on the staff, Rule had cleared out pretty much everybody. And then the offseason was kind of forced to bring in guys with pro experience. And Wilks was one of those guys that when they came in, I was like, oh, yeah. If this falls apart,
replacement.
We got Wilks. Let's go. Let's do this. So for me, I was super happy he got put on. I agree that Wilks and Rivera have some similarities that I can see. They're both kind of no nonsense, tell it to you straight type guys. They make you want to play for them, but it feels like they make you want to excel. Like you want them to be proud of you. So you want to play as best as you can.
You don't want to disappoint your coach.
Right. And I don't know if that vibe was the same with Matt Rule. You know what I mean? Although it sounds like all the players had no problem with him. Everybody seemed cool with him. But it almost felt like a college coach type of relationship to me from the outside in, where maybe it was. Maybe Rule was treating these guys kind of like a college program and tried to run it that way, and it just didn't work. And that's fine. We've said that before. It's fine. You know, Nick Saban tried the same thing. Didn't work out for him. I think he did okay for himself after it was all said and done.
Maybe Stu could probably speak to this more than I can, because obviously I didn't play in the NFL. But I feel like Rivera and Wilks are the type of guys that when you show up to the building every day for practice or lifting or meetings or anything, like, you don't just show up dreading the day. Like, you're excited to show up for work because of those two guys and their focus and their leadership. Like, I don't think, like, there's some guys in the NFL that may be head coaches and that is your coach, and you show up and you're like, man, we got to go through this today, we got to do that today. But I feel like Wilks and Rivera are two guys that, like, you are excited to show up to work every day.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, there's definitely a lot of days with anything that you're just like dreading the experience of whatever you're doing, right? Especially if it's repetitive, right? But what you know about these guys is they see you, they understand you, they know it's hard, they know it's tough, but they're right there with you. And so, and like, even I remember one time, like, we were practicing in the rain. Coach Rivera out loud says, "You think I want to be out here in this rain?" But like little stuff like that, right? Like, I don't want rain running down. I don't want rain running down the back of my neck. But we gotta be out here because it might rain this weekend. And you want to know what game that was? That was the tsunami game.
Oh, where they had like
the Jaguars game. The Jaguars,
yes. Where it was like rivers pouring down the stairwells.
Yeah, and like, so we had a practice during that week, and it was like kind of slippery outside, raining. We're like, man, why are we out here? And like, you can tell he knew our vibe was, why are we out here? And so he had to make it known that, hey, I see you, I understand it, but we got to be here. It's not like a guy that's like, hey, man, you got to toughen up, or like real men go through the rain. Nah, buddy.
What's that
This is for the birds, but we got to be out here. So
was that your Matt Rule impression?
I don't know. It's just anyone. Like
if you had added
Friday Night Lights,
if you had added that at the end of it, it would have been
Varsity Blues coach. But no, like, that's kind of like, when you're around people that understand you and they get you, you'll go to bat for that guy because you know they're going to bat for you. And I think that's what you feel in that locker room is, you know, you got guys on the same playing field, and I'm here because you're here.
And guys
I need you
shots.
here.
Guys are getting shots now too. Terrence Marshall Jr. was out there making catches. Deonta finally got some snaps and made the most of it. We still haven't seen like Laviska Shenault still injured, so he hasn't been back in this mix yet.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different stuff going on that we've been hoping would blossom, that we started seeing the seeds of yesterday, maybe, and I'm hoping they carry that over. I'm pretty sure, Schuyler, you might be able to confirm this. I'm pretty sure Wilks said that PJ will be the starter versus Atlanta on Sunday, correct?
Yeah.
As of right now, yeah.
I'm cool with that.
I'm cool with it too.
He hasn't given me a reason to be like, get him out this game right now. Like, get him out right now. Like, and I don't want to see a revert to Baker or Sam. I kind of feel bad for Baker because he kind of got put in a spot where it more often than not, it wasn't going to end great for him because of the situation above him. And now I'm wondering, are they going to put him back on the field? Because if I'm not mistaken, some of his contract has to do with the percentage of snaps he actually takes. So maybe, and I think it has to do with a draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right, Schuyler? Like if he does certain number of snaps, so the pick becomes something else?
If I remember correctly, it's been so damn long now. But I think it was a conditional pick. So yeah, it's a certain amount of, I believe, I'll have to look it up. I'll know for the next one.
Something like a fifth or something like that if he played like less than 70% of the snaps or something to that effect, which technically they could do. It's funny. It made me remember the great train robbery, the Dallas Cowboy Jimmy Johnson thing where he traded off Herschel Walker and got back all these picks from Minnesota. But the thing that he did was basically put in there, if that player didn't make the team, this pick becomes a first-round pick pretty much. And Minnesota's like, sure. Yeah. And he just had no intention of keeping any of those players. So he just literally cut them all. And then he had like 6 first-round picks. And that's how the early 90s Dallas Cowboy dynasty basically got built off of that because of the way he did that trade. And they call it the Great Train Robbery.
It's a 5th-round pick that converts to a 4th if he plays 70%.
Boom. There it is. Go for it. Let's get it. PJ, stop. Don't throw turnover or interceptions. Don't fumble it. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll keep Baker over here. Heal your foot. Do your thing. Get us that 4th-round pick. Before we get out of here, the fans that are out here clamoring for losses for Carolina, we're going to ride y'all the whole year if y'all keep doing this. This is your 1 week. We are coming after y'all.
Don't show up. Don't show up in January. That's all.
Don't be all on the bandwagon when we're playing a divisional playoff game or something against Dallas or somebody or Seattle. Yeah, and Geno Smith in January. Don't be all like, I knew it all the time. PJ, you could have saved the day a long time ago. No, I've been watching all of y'all. I'm keeping receipts.
Yeah. Y'all better y'all got to the end of the day to apologize.
Pledge your allegiance to the man.
Hey, listen, Panther Nation, you got to the end of the day to apologize to PJ Walker.
Peanut butter jelly.
Yeah.
Peanut butter jelly time.
Peanut butter jelly time. Man.
Because if you don't, we'll know who you are the rest of the season when we riding out.
We're gonna clown y'all. Like I'm gonna make a list and put it like in PDF form. We're gonna put it on the screen. Like these are the ones that said all the bad things about Panthers and PJ and Tepper. It's gonna move the team and all this other stuff. Yeah. We're good to
apologize.
Go.
If you said it, apologize.
It's Victory Monday. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We haven't had a lot of these. Schuyler, how many Victory Mondays have we had since you came on? Like
7?
7? Yeah. Like total. So like, yeah. So just enjoy this one. Thursday, we'll be back with a preview episode, Panthers versus Atlanta. Tell them why you're mad Thursday. I don't think Denver plays Thursday night football this week, or Monday night. Did they? They're on a bye, I think. Maybe we'll be more about that because I don't know what they did this week. No, they played Thursday night. They played this past Thursday, so I don't think Denver will be in there, but you never know. So we'll find out for sure on Thursday. We'll get you all more. Yeah, it'll be early afternoon Thursday, which with a new one there. I didn't even mention it when we did it the other day. But last week we crossed our 100th episode. I completely didn't realize it until after I started putting it back in. So just shout out to all the fans that have found us over the past 3 years, the ones that continue to find us. I think Schuyler mentioned somebody came up to him at dinner and mentioned they saw the podcast. I was in a Papa John's earlier in the week, and the managers were talking about how they started watching the podcast. It's starting to grow a little bit. So we appreciate everybody that's finding us, sharing it with other Panther fans. We appreciate all of that. So definitely subscribe, rate us.
We know you took advantage of that 50% off from the double-double the Hornets. I
was like, hey, why don't you hook me up on that that epic stuff press real quick since you like the podcast. We'll be back Thursday. I think 1:00 is what we got it set for. So you can catch us there. For Schuyler Callihan and Jonathan Stewart, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network. Keep pounding.